When should you replace fantasy football players with injury tags? Have you ever found yourself staring at your fantasy football roster, wondering when to pull the trigger on replacing an injured player? It can be a tough decision, but knowing when to act can make all the difference in your season. Let's break it down. First, consider the severity of the injury and how long the player is expected to be out. If a player is placed on the National Football League's injured reserve list, they usually miss at least for weeks. This is a strong indicator that you should look for a replacement. For shorter injuries, like a 1-week absence, it might be better to hold onto the player and use a bench replacement temporarily. Next, check your league's rules regarding injured reserve slots. Many fantasy leagues allow you to move an injured player to an injured reserve slot, freeing up space for a healthy player. However, some leagues limit how many injured reserve designations you can use in a season. If you use your injured reserve slot too early on a player with a minor injury, you might miss out on using it later for a more significant injury. Another key factor is your bench depth and available replacement options. Take a good look at your bench. If you have reliable backups or players on the waiver wire who can step in, it might be time to make a move. Often, the direct backup to an injured starter is the best choice to replace them in your fantasy lineup. If you have a strong backup linked to the starter, you can promote them without dropping the injured player. Also, think about how the injury affects the player's role on their actual team. If the injury limits their playing time but they are not completely sidelined, you might choose to keep them. On the other hand, if the player is set to miss games or has a season-ending injury, replacing them immediately is essential to keep your team competitive. Timing is another important consideration. Early in the season, it may be wise to wait and see if a player recovers quickly before making any changes. However, as the season progresses and fewer weeks remains, it becomes more urgent to replace an injured player who will miss multiple games. To put this into practice, after each game week, review injury reports and assess your roster. If a player is confirmed out for multiple weeks or placed on injured reserve, move them to the injured reserve slot if you have one. Activate a replacement from your bench or the waiver wire. If you do not have an injured reserve slot, consider dropping the injured player to create roster space. Prioritize players with longer expected absences and limited return prospects. Act quickly to secure replacements before other managers in your league do. By balancing injury severity, league rules, bench strength, and timing, you can manage your roster effectively throughout the season.